you make a roast video of something that you made yourself, your roasting may easily become boasting. But I promise it won't happen in this video. Some 6 years ago, I wrote a research master thesis at KU Leuven. I got 16.4 out of 20 for it. And I thought that time that this was because I had a particular grumpy professor among my examiners. After all these years, after writing a PhD dissertation and some articles, I came to thinking that maybe I got a grade lower than I expected, not because of that grumpy professor. So that suspicion drew me to look at my research master thesis again and roast it. I know all like roasting videos. At least I like them. So, don't leave comments like "don't be too hard on yourself" or "be positive about what you are doing." This video is not about me or my achievements. It's about thesis writing. If you're interested in thesis writing explained, watch this video. Okay, I open a general introduction and what I see? Text. A lot of text. A lot of very dense text. Haven't your eyes already begun to hurt? Mine have. And the problem here is not the font size. It's okay, it's 12. But the real problem is the line spacing. I imagine how painful it could be for my supervisor and examiners to read all this. Then we go to state of the art. No! State of research! Sometimes you make mistakes just because you are taught to make them. My professors call the state of the art something that the normal English-speaking world actually call the state of research or the state of scholarship. Look at this. This book by Jean Danielou is pretty old one. It's from the early 50s. Why on earth I spent a half of a page describing it? Next, there is even more interesting. And our book? And even older. But here's the funny thing. I did some roasting of this book, and the historical irony is that now I'm roasting my own roasting. I might have focused on more recent books and criticized them pretty well. Here, on the entire 6 pages, I repeatedly, in different words, say that one book didn't study my topic, and another book didn't do it, and the third book, and finally nobody studied it. This is the way how I try to indicate the so-called lacuna, or basically something what is lacking in the scholarship. But that's not enough. It looks like as if I'm telling only a part of the story. It's like to say, I'm gonna study how people perform Shakespeare on TikTok, because nobody studied it. That sounds interesting. But what's the point? You should first describe how people perform Shakespeare on the traditional stage, and against this background, you may wish to investigate how the TikTok performance differs from the traditional one. The problem of the state of research in my thesis was that I almost didn't describe how the scholars studied my topic before me. So they certainly did it. I went on saying that they didn't do that in the source that I'm going to study, but they studied the same topic in other different sources, even in the writings of the same author. Honestly, I remember I was very overwhelmed and really afraid to study that field in detail. And I failed dramatically. Just because I didn't have that description, the proper description of the previous research, I couldn't compare my own research to the previous research and highlight my contribution. But the proper description of my contribution is missing here because of another thing as well. It is because I wrote the entire state of research before I did my own study. Of course, it's right to read a lot of books by other scholars before you start doing your study, and to make summaries and notes, but the entire draft of the state of research should be written after you finish your own study, and you can highlight your own contribution against the background of the previous research. The first chapter. I have no idea what he's doing here. And I remember I had the same feeling when I was writing it. Yes, it gives a historical background of the source that I studied, but there is nothing about the topic here. Besides, it's huge, it's 20 pages. Why not to describe the historical background in which the source emerged only in 5 or 7 pages and then say more about the author of the source? And to give a historical background of the topic that I'm going to study, basically my research question. And finally, the big problem is in the third chapter. Here I choose to do 4 case studies to show how my author's biblical interpretation is dependent on the previous tradition. It's okay, it's not a problem to select examples for case studies. The problem is that I choose those that has been already well researched. Nobody had done exactly the study that I did, but the examples of the traditional interpretations that I chose are pretty well known and kinda not cool to study again. Honestly, I wrote my final chapter in haste, so I finished it during, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. I chose the easy route for this chapter, but failed. Phew, roasting is over. See you in the next video. I might have focused on more recent books and criticized them pretty well.